welcome to the Lobby GameSpot's weekly hangout every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on GameSpot.com. How you doing? I'm Daniel Dwyer, joined by Scott Butterworth and Andy Bauman, still taking notes. Such is the professionalism we have on offer here.
He's just doodling. I'm just looking. There's
really?
nothing. It's just penises.
He's like, don't talk about the game that's under embargo. We can get through this whole show without mentioning it. We'll be doing just great.
I'm drawing cars.
You know what game is not
really
under
good
embargo that we're here to talk about, though? The Need for Speed.
We're just getting right into it.
Yeah.
Screw that banter. We're just going right for the.
Need for Speed.
Yeah, it's a game.
It's just called Need for Speed, right?
It's just called Need for Speed.
What is the closest Need for Speed it is to, though, in relation to the old Need for Speed games?
Sure. It's kind of like Underground.
Okay.
So the Need for Speed Underground games were like the tuner street racing kind of games, and this came out in 2003 and 2004, I believe.
Very popular.
And it's not exactly like those games, but it is sort of about tuner culture again, and it's about illegal street racing, and it's always nighttime, and you're building up your own tuner mobile, and so it's similar to those, but it actually feels like driving-wise and mechanically feels a lot like Hot Pursuit, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Or Most Wanted, I think either of those. It's definitely not Shift. It's not like the realistic Need for Speeds, like those were their own thing. And it's not even too much like Rivals, which was the first Need for Speed from Ghost Games, who also made this Need for Speed.
So you gave it 8 out of 10 on GameSpot. The review is currently up right now.
It's true, yes.
Talk a little bit about the sort of the time you hit a wall, because I found that to be an interesting part of your review. You kind of tried to make a master of all trades or jack of all trades, master of none car, and it didn't quite work out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly what happened. I was actually kind of struggling with how to start the review and what I wanted to talk about, and then I realized that the moment that sort of stuck out to me was that realization of, even though I'd had some serious trouble with a difficulty spike late in the game, I still wanted to play. I mean, once I got past that and the game became fun again, I was like, oh great, this is, and ultimately, that's sort of what decided the score for me. I mean, even when I sat down to write the review, I was kind of torn between a 7 and an 8, for a lot of the reasons that I'm sure we're going to get into. But ultimately, why I decided on an 8 was, I mean, two things. One, a lot of the problems that people have with the game are arguably fleeting, stuff that's only going to affect a small portion of the game, and stuff that's really good is going to continue to be good. Things like the driving and the customization, things like that. Those would be good in perpetuity. But the other big thing was, like I said, I always wanted to keep playing. I mean, no matter what I came up against in the game, I was always excited to continue driving, to continue upgrading my vehicle. And any game that can do that, like, even if I want to go play a game after I'm done reviewing it, that's a powerful thing.
So in spite of its foibles, it still brought you back.
Exactly.
So what were you doing when you came back? What type of activities do you what is the meat and potatoes of Need for Speed?
Sure, it's a little all over the place. There's drift events, there's racing events, there's Gymkhana, which combines like a lot of different driving disciplines. And it's an open world structured game, kind of like Burnout Paradise or any number of previous Need for Speed games. So you can just pick and choose the events you like and kind of do those. And eventually you will kind of be forced to do a little of everything if you want to continue to progress through the story. But it's pretty open. You have a lot of options. Actually, that's one of the things I really wanted to talk about. One of the biggest problems people had with the game was rubber banding AI, which is kind of a dirty word when it comes to racing games, and something that is all too frequent, and it comes up a lot in racing games, right? And it is a problem, it is annoying, and I'm bummed that this game has pretty obvious rubber banding. But here's the thing. One, it didn't completely ruin the experience, and two, it only affects a small portion of the events in the game. I mean, a lot of the events you're competing against a clock or trying to reach a point total, things like that. Only a small handful have you competing directly against AI competitors. So the rubber banding AI doesn't affect the entire game. It just affects a small portion. And yeah, it sucks that it's there, but for me, I was able to work through it and get past it.
Yeah, we noticed some of that when we did our GameSpot plays.
Yeah, I saw that.
Now playing last week. Actually.
That was fun. It was a good live stream.
It was good fun. Andy, did you play after we did that live stream? Like, what is your sort of main takeaway from Need for Speed as somebody who plays like a bunch of the Forza game, coming from that sort of angle?
Yeah, I mean, like, point blank, you should play Forza Horizon 2. Right. But like,
it's a very different game.
But it's like, it's got all this stuff in it and more. So it's like, I don't know. But the thing about Need for Speed is we were playing on Xbox One.
Yes.
One thing to note is like the PS4 version was running way smoother the whole overall, and it almost like was catching my eye in certain places where it looked better.
Right.
So I don't know how much of a widespread thing that is, or if there's a patch that fixes that day one. But like that's something to look out for.
That's interesting because we did have like pretty frequent frame rate hitching on the Xbox One, and not that it was like completely
it's not unplayable or
unplayable, but it was definitely like a noticeable thing.
And that's a key thing. But yeah, I would agree. Like, it's not bad. Like, there's nothing terrible that's going to turn you off about it. And the rubber banding AI actually is nice in a way because like on these street race stuff, the streets are empty.
Yeah.
because they kind of took out all the traffic, which is nice for the gameplay aspect because you don't want to run into random cars like all
Which
that often.
does happen
'Cause that's-
sometimes, but yeah, if it was happening all the time, you would just break your disc in half.
Like
Yeah.
the crew, that happens all the time, and you just want to kill yourself.
Yeah, because it's not your fault. It's just
Yeah,
that
it just
some-
comes up all of a sudden.
and you're
You're
just
like,
like,
oh,
why would you put all
some
the
commuter.
So, and then like the drift events, like you're saying, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And also like it helps because you get drift trains if you kind of like sync your drift with all your dudes.
Yeah, yeah.
And because it's all about the style. Like you're not racing against them, you're racing like with them to like put down the best, drift turns on the switchy backy turns of the mountains. And so
thing.
it's like
Yeah.
it's
That's what all
pretty
the
cool.
cool kids call it, switchy backy things.
Switchy backy.
In tuner culture, that's the.
I
that's
think
the
so.
term.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And speaking of tuners.
As a video, yeah, okay, go for it. Yeah,
Well,
you're-
yeah, like one of the things we both kind of were talking about that we liked is it forces you to tune your car, and it gives you the meta slider that just says drift,
grip or
performance.
drift. Yeah, if you want to
grip or
ignore
drift.
everything, just there's a master slider at the very top that like, do you want a grippy car? Or do you want a drift car?
And that
And
makes
you
all the
don't have
other
to think
ones.
about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would sincerely recommend diving into the more like granular things that you can adjust. You can kind of see it on
Areas,
screen
yeah.
right there. Say, yeah, handbrake strength and spring stiffness and like all this stuff actually matters, and it
Yeah.
will impact the way the game controls. So if you are playing the game, and you're like, I hate how this handles. Go adjust stuff. Like it handles the way you want it to handle. Just go mess with it and make it into what you want it to be.
yeah, it was interesting. You tuned your car differently and then did a drift event, and it was like a no-go.
Oh yeah, I was
just
like, I gotta redo this.
Yeah,
we gotta go back to the garage.
It took me like an embarrassingly long time to figure that out. And like I said, the game
Whoa.
almost encourages you to just build up a single car, like the way that the progression system is structured and the rate at which currency is meted out. It really encourages you to build up one car early on at least. And so later, when I hit the wall that you had mentioned earlier, basically what happened was I could no longer get away with having one car. I needed to have multiple cars, or at least drastically retune my car for each different event, which was a giant pain, by the way. It's better to have two cars if you can afford it.
Did you ever get the
Yeah.
Ferrari F40? Because it's not the
Oh yeah, I bought the. I'm not going to say it right because I'm used to reading it. The Lamborghini Aventador.
Okay.
It's like the second highest rated car in the game, but I preferred it over the highest rated. And yeah, like once you have enough money, you can buy the crazy exotic cars. Like they're absolutely in the game. But really, it's about building up your stock like nothing car into something really cool, and that's a little more rewarding.
Okay, let's talk about. I feel like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we had you on with Guitar Hero.
Yes.
But FMV, man.
Yeah.
It's back in a big way.
2015,
It's-
baby.
Year
Oh,
of
man.
FMV.
I think cameras have gotten good. This is like a camera nerd thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think like cameras have gotten so good that they can run these like deep focal length lenses and make it like lit in a way that's not like super over the top, and it looks kind of natural. Like it's obviously supplemented. You can see HMIs going through windows in this
Yes,
game and stuff,
yeah.
but like it looks nice. Like I think it's cool, and it's like impressive that they do these things, and they have like
Yeah.
probably like use motion tracking in the shots, like robotic tracking, or it's just a really good Steadicam op. It's so impressive.
It looks like
and
cookie,
looks
but it's
good.
like kind of good, right?
Yeah, and they're obviously shooting like ultra HD, like 4K, 5K, 6K. So it's like, damn, this stuff is like. But then the acting is like.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about the camera nerd aspect of it. It was really fascinating
Yeah.
talking to Andy about it because like that's kind of what Andy does.
Yeah.
And so it hadn't occurred to me that the way it was made was actually kind of cool because I was a little more
Yeah.
fixated on like the acting and the dialogue, which are not great. In Guitar Hero, it was like really insufferable and just like I don't know, like I really couldn't stand it in Guitar Hero. But for whatever reason, it really grew on me here. I think because it's just kind of like friendly and goofy and really welcoming in a weird way.
Right.
And it just kind of won me over. Like there's no discernible plot. Like there's no like arching storyline. There's nothing. It's incomprehensible.
It's like a bunch of people meeting who apparently are all like streetcar racers,
Kinda.
never meeting near cars, like always in
Yeah,
a bar. or
it's always
a
like
restaurant.
exactly. Like there's
It breaks
one
down.
scene that happens with like cars
Yeah.
present. Everything else is like maybe there's a car in the background, but it's like we're in a
Turns
dining
out
room.
shooting outdoors is
What they-
expensive.
Yeah, exactly. They needed sets, and then when they did try to bring like the models of the in-game cars into the
Yeah.
shots, you can really see the seams of the green,
It's-
like the mat and
yeah.
stuff, the green screen stuff.
So
and you're
I mean, like I
"Ugh."
said, it won me over, and it's like charming campiness, and
Yeah.
and I wasn't gonna really penalize the game too deeply, even if it was bad, because it's a racing game. Like I'm not really playing racing games for story. Like
Right.
and you can skip everything, by the way.
Yeah.
If you really are grossed out by the idea of FMVs, you can absolutely just skip everything, and you still get all the same events. You can still play the game exactly the same. So you don't have to experience any of that. But if you sit through it, it might win you over like it won me over, because
Yeah.
it is just like goofy and fun and like. you just get to know and love these stupid characters. So I actually grew to really enjoy it. By the
Which
end.
is kind of like what Need for Speed Underground was as well. It was this like dumb like character, like that's kind of in fitting with it in a way. So
I mainly just remember like Underglow and all that kind of stuff. That was my fond memories of Underground.
Let's talk about the final point I want to talk about, because for some reason it's one of my favorite aspects of this game. And at the start I thought it was like super kooky and weird, but the fact that this game is in like perpetual nighttime,
It's a little weird.
love.
Yeah, well,
One
so
night.
Underground was all at night as well, so it's sort of in keeping with that. I mean, it's illegal street racing, right? Like, what illegal street race is happening in the middle of the day?
3 p.m.
Yeah,
in like
it's
gridlock.
not generally, I imagine, how those sorts of things are conducted. Not really, I'm not much of a gearhead. I haven't spent a lot of time
Oh, we know what you
racing
get up to on the
cars.
weekends, Scott.
Yeah, it's not racing cars, though.
Oil underneath his fingers.
Yeah, oh, clearly, yeah.
God.
I'm really a tuner.
I changed my headlight this weekend.
Oh, did you really?
Tuned
That's
Because
it.
you've
I'm
been playing
impressed.
Need for
tuned the
Speed?
shit out of it.
Yeah, man.
Dude.
I put
I
like,
actually had to go back because I bought the wrong one.
Did you
Wait,
really?
yeah, you didn't change your headlight. You replaced your headlight.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you were there when it was
I
out.
was. That was
Yeah.
like wait, have you been driving around for like a month?
I
with
don't
no-
drive my car very
Okay,
often.
okay,
Only
fair.
on weekends and
Yeah.
during the day.
But what I love about
Yeah.
the nighttime stuff is that like it in certain parts of the map it's like dawn.
Yeah, it starts to get a little dusky, and then
Yeah.
it's immediately night.
And
again.
it's
And then you
night
go
again.
past like a point in the level, and it goes like fade in, fade out.
Yeah, so it's like you're playing in like Alaska or something.
But, like,
it's like
dude.
oh, it's daytime for 30 minutes and we're back again.
Like we kind of brushed on how it looks good. Like the night driving, it looks fucking cool.
It looks
like,
good.
It's
looks
beautiful.
so
the
cool.
game is absolutely
The wet
gorgeous.
as well. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you got
yeah,
the wet streets
I
and-
get that people think that it's kind of dumb that it's always wet and always night, but God, it's gorgeous. I just loved
Yeah.
whipping around the world. It's just so much fun just to drive around and look at everything. It's beautiful. It's one of the best looking racing games I've ever played.
Last point on it, I just want to touch on it before we wrap up. Multiplayer stuff, how does that work? Is it essential? Is it non-essential? Like,
So you're in a sort of shared open world. I mean, like I said, you're in a big city. It's an open world map, and within that map, you will find other drivers. It's always online, which is its own thing. I called it out in the review because I knew that for some people that's a deal breaker. Like always online, no, out, and like
Yeah.
burn it to the ground. I want nothing to do with it instantly. And for me, it wasn't a deal breaker. Like it's annoying for the reasons I outlined in the review. Like you can't pause, stuff like that. And yeah, I don't like it, but I learned to live with it.
oh yeah, that's why when
Remember
you
you go
went
into
in
the map,
Yes.
and your car just keeps going.
He went to the
Yep.
map and the car's just like
Yep.
going down the
Don't
street.
text and
Because it's
drive.
always
I
online.
think
You
is the
can't
message.
pause the game. Like if you need to, the joke I made in the reviews, if you need to stop your cat from destroying your furniture, you can't. You're either going to lose the event or your cat's going to destroy your couch. It's like you can't actually pause the game. Always
Yeah.
online is annoying for a lot of reasons. That's one of them. But again, for me, not a deal breaker. Called it out so people can make up their own minds.
Right.
If they hate it, fine, great. But yes, multiplayer, you can create crews and have your friends join events with you. You can just cruise around the map and find people there and challenge them to sort of ad hoc events by just pulling up next to them and pulling one of the triggers or one of the bumpers. Yeah, so there are plenty of options. There's no dedicated multiplayer mode, but I didn't have a problem jumping into events and having fun with people, actual human beings, not rubber banding AI.
Any benefit to that? Was there like extra cash rewards? Or
If you beat a friend's time, it'll specifically mark events where a friend has set a high score or a
Okay.
best time. And if you go to that event and you beat their time, you get more rep experience and more cash than you would have if it was just a regular event.
Cool.
So the game does reward you for beating your friends' times and playing sort of asynchronously.
Great. So just make sure your friends suck and Need for Speed. And
Exactly.
you're good to go.
As far as there's no cockpit cam, no manual shifting.
That's true,
Not
yes.
a lot of options.
Which,
there.
as like I'm an arcadey like Need for Speed fan, I like the Burnout games. I like big crashes and going fast. So stuff like manual shifting and cockpit view don't really matter to me. I mentioned a couple of them in the review just so people would know, but
Yeah.
for me, I'm just there to go fast. Like I don't need shifting. It didn't affect me. I don't care.
Cool.
But for some people, I know that that's a deal breaker.
Yeah,
so now
my
you
man.
know. You can
Not
make
deal
up your
breaker,
own
just
minds,
like,
readers,
good info.
viewers, watchers, whoever. Yeah. So
to
that's
know.
Need for Speed.
Sweet. Andy and Scott, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Talking about race cars. Presumably this is back to being an annualized franchise. We may see you guys back
We'll
in 12
see.
months to talk about it all again. Let us know what you think of Need for Speed. You are a fan of the series, you want to get back into it? Or is this one piqued your interest for the first time? Or are you not into it? Do you have another racing game du jour you're enjoying? Let us know in the comment box below. All right.